Praise be to Jesus. Hello again, everyone. Charles here with you. Let's get started with our Catholic News Evening Briefs. A woman described as a victim in Pennsylvania's grand jury report on clergy sexual abuse is suing the Roman Catholic Diocese of Allentown over what she's calling a, quote, smear, unquote, campaign. The lawsuit filed Wednesday on behalf of Julianne Bortz alleges church officials sought unfavorable information about her to discredit her allegations of abuse by the Reverend Francis Fromholzer when she was 18 in the 1960s. Her attorney says 69-year-old Bortz was unaware of this until she read the grand jury report last month. The suit alleges intentional infliction of emotional distress and defamation. Her lawyer tells the Morning Call she's seeking an apology and details on who tried to discredit her. The Allentown Diocese denied attempts to discredit Bortz. The diocese says it never acted on the information and removed the priest. Cardinal Oscar Rodriguez Maradiaga, a close partisan of Pope Francis, has denied the existence of a gay lobby in the Vatican. Talking to periodistadigital.com September 12th, Rodriguez called the Vatican gay lobby, quote, something that exists much more in the ink of newspapers than in reality, unquote. Chilean authorities say they are raiding 4 dioceses in the South American country as part of an investigation into clerical sex abuse. Prosecutors say the surprise raids on Thursday are taking place at the Diocese of Valparaiso, Chillán, Osorno, and Concepcion. Images published by local media show authorities walking out after seizing documents. The raids were ordered by prosecutor Emilio Arias. He is leading about 20 investigations about alleged sex abuse of minors involving a group of priests in the city of Rancagua. He is also probing the alleged rape of minors by a former member of the Santiago Diocese. Chilean prosecutors recently summoned the Archbishop of Santiago, Cardinal Ricardo Azati, to appear in court and testify about the alleged cover-up of years of abuse. Well, this is just a headline. Protesters in Buffalo call on Papal Nuncio to remove Bishop Malone. Now I'm going to put a video up of this, and what I have to say is this. What is sad about this story is that few protesters took part. Silence and lack of action empowers evil, and that's what the Catholic hierarchy in America will be patient and waiting for. That interest eventually dies, and they can keep their secrets to themselves. So here comes the video now.
Well, the same day, our 7 Eyewitness News I-team is releasing this explosive new information. Some Western New Yorkers are welcoming a high-ranking church leader. And this high-profile visit is reigniting calls for Bishop Richard Malone to step aside.
You can't just transfer someone and put other children at risk. You can't cover it up.
Peggy Sperber from South Buffalo took her almost 1-year-old son, Ben, to the protest today, joining calls on Bishop Richard Malone to resign. The church sex abuse crisis is something she follows closely as a mom raising her son Catholic.
We've taught him how important the Catholic faith is as part of our family, and it is the core of how we raise him. we think it's as important to teach him that you need to stand up to evil.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, Bishop Malone has got to go.
Calls for Bishop Malone's resignation have been mounting over the past few weeks, ever since a 7 Eyewitness News I-Team investigation showed he allowed priests to return to ministry despite allegations of sexual misconduct.
Bishop Malone lied to the people of Western New York. Bishop Malone lied to the Catholic community here.
Today, a small group of protesters gathered outside a conference for Catholic Charities USA. Inside the event was Archbishop Christophe Pierre. As papal nuncio to the United States, he serves as the diplomatic representative for the Vatican.
Well, we want Archbishop Pierre to send the resignation letter of Bishop Richard Malone to the Vatican.
7 Eyewitness News was not allowed inside the private event. A spokesperson for Catholic Charities says it has no comment on today's protest.
So the children in these communities, the children who are involved in the Catholic Church in Buffalo and Western New York are not safe.
And I think it's so important that we take our church back.
I also reached out to the Buffalo Diocese for comment. I'm still waiting to hear back, but Bishop Richard Malone has said previously he plans to stay on until his retirement in 2021. In Buffalo, Josh Bazan, 7 Eyewitness News.
A number of Scottish bishops agree that there should be an investigation following last month's explosive testimony of Vatican whistleblower Archbishop Vigano. Bishop John Keenan of the Diocese of Paisley, echoing the thoughts of U.S. Bishop Robert Barron, released a message on August 31st saying that the abuse crisis is clearly diabolical. Quote, "It is clearly diabolical in origin, a masterpiece of the devil to undermine every aspect of the church's evangelizing mission," unquote, he wrote. Keenan stated that the focus must be on the victims of what they have suffered. However, he called for a lay-led investigation into the McCarrick scandal. Quote, "We must petition the Vatican for a lay-led investigation into who knew what about the McCarrick affair," unquote, he wrote. Quote, "Archbishop Vigano's testimony is valuable, but only one piece of the jigsaw. The Vatican must authorize the opening of all relevant files and correspondence," unquote. The Pope, in his homily today, said that Christians should never enter, quote, into gossiping, unquote, or, quote, into the logic of insults, unquote, which can only cause, quote, war, unquote, reported Vatican News. Christian logic goes against the current of that leads one to, quote, badmouth enemies or those who are of a different party, unquote, and follow instead the, quote, folly of the cross, unquote. Quote, "Only the merciful are like God the Father. Be merciful as your Father is merciful. This is the path that goes against the spirit of the world, that thinks differently, that does not accuse others. Because among us is the great accuser, the one who is always going about to accuse us before God, to destroy. Satan. He is the great accuser. And when I enter into this logic of accusing, of cursing, seeking to do evil to others, I enter into the logic of the great accuser, who is the destroyer, who does not know the word mercy, does not know, has never lived it," unquote, he said. Quote, "Pope at Mass today again referred to the great accuser who is among us," noted Vatican correspondent Edward Penton via Twitter. Quote, "You cannot do it to the other. You cannot enter into the logic of the accuser. But Father, I have to excuse. Oh, I have to accuse. Yes, accuse yourself. You do well. For the other, only mercy," unquote. Well, here, I'm going to say something about this here. I think the Pope is telling us that speaking up causes division, that we need to be merciful, and, to him, that means silence. That talking about the secrecy and cover ups is doing evil to others. So, in other words, this is his advice for us to help the church. Mercy is not silence, but confronting sin in charity with the hope of conversion. Knowing with most reasonable certainty that evil exists in our church, this advice to us is his solution? No, Pope Francis. What you ask of us is to betray Christ. Christ never turned his back, remaining silent to sin. He confronted sin, and we shall do the same. By their fruits you shall know them. These are rotten trees that need to be cut down and burned. If there is one that will come forward and repent publicly, then for him there is mercy and forgiveness from us and from Christ, and perhaps with penance and restitution there can be a future. A tiger can change its stripes with Christ's help. New York's Cardinal Timothy Dolan has come to the defense of his, quote, friend, unquote, Cardinal Donald Wuerl, the embattled Archbishop of Washington, D.C., who is facing pressure to resign over inaction on sex abuse. Quote, now we're seeing major church leaders having to resign, unquote, CNN's Christiane Amanpour pointed out during an interview with Dolan. Quote, look, I gotta be personal. He's a good friend, and he's a tremendous leader among the bishops, unquote, Dolan answered. Quote, I kinda hope he doesn't resign. We need him. We need him for reform. 'Cause he's been a great source of reform in the past, even not taking away the fact that you just said. I trust him enough that if he thinks he needs to resign for the good of the church, he will, and I would respect that decision and support him, unquote. Quote, if I read it right, he has a very good track record of being aggressive against abuse, unquote, Dolan continued. Amanpour pushed back against this, saying, quote, he's alleged to have known about this abuse, unquote. Now, of course, with anything I put on the on the channel here, I always leave the links in the description box. So if you want to read more about what goes on between the two of them, you can, or any of the other stories. The links are always there. And of course, I would always encourage you to read more about it, because I'm just sort of giving you the first part of the article. Because there's just so much news, there's only 24 hours in the day and I can only do so much. So, I sort of like pass the ball on to you, Okay, so that's it for that article. Okay, well, here comes your atomic bomb for today. This is really very significant. The Vatican is reeling from news that the 300-page dossier containing names of members of the gay lobby, a dossier some believe led to Pope Benedict's resignation in 2013, has been leaked to the media. Il Fatto Quotidiano, or Diano, I don't know, an Italian journal read by Vatican officials, is confirming it has seen the 300-page dossier. Quote, the report contains a detailed and disturbing picture of the moral and material corruption of the clergy, with names, surnames, and circumstances, writes Francesca Fagnani. And, there's a lot more to this article here if you want to delve into that. This here is, it seems to me to be really significant. Well, this just got posted, so we'll hear more about this in the next day or two. So those are your updates for today, and I really wish I had some good news for you, but I don't really come across it very often. Things are such a mess, you know. But we need to smile and maintain our sense of humor and keep things in perspective. Pray a lot, you know. Even when you're driving the car, you could always say a Hail Mary. Just, you know, it's just a matter of developing a habit like that. Okay, well, that's it. Enjoy your evening or your day, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.